right, Coach. We're just going to start off just kind of recapping the Nuttycombe Wisconsin Invitational. To start with the women first. Emma Jenkins continues to impress and improve. Also, a lot of other solid runs from other people as well. But just kind of start talking about the women and how they ran 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I thought the group that we took there ran very well. It was their first exposure across the board to a field of that size and of that quality, to be one of the 30-plus teams, top teams in the nation, to be invited to that was step one. That was a really neat experience for them. And I think great learning experience. Some went a little bit too aggressively, some a little bit too cautiously. And so I think we took a lot from it, gained a lot of experience. And for Emma to put herself out there the way she did, ran very aggressively, struggled a little bit towards the end, but with time and with just a little better race management, I think she's ready for another outstanding and even better race than this last time.
And then, on the men's side, Chandler running exceptionally well, finishing 26th overall. I'd say Nathan and Amir also ran very well. Just kind of recap, how the mid as a whole ran as well.
Yeah, we were very pleased with the way things went. I know you come out of a meet and you go 11th. What do you take away from that? But 11th in that field and beating, a dozen plus top 25 teams. And most importantly, well, I don't want to say most importantly, but one of the most important things was that we were able to secure projected wins against projected automatic qualifiers for NCAAs. And so the most recent projection would be we'd secure 8 wins out of that, and typically it would take 3 or 4 wins. So this is the best position we've been in after this week since I've been at WSU. Even in the year that we were 14th, we had not secured this many wins by this point in the season. So very excited about that. And, again, getting a chance to be on the course. It's a slightly different course than what we ran last year, but identical other than the distance to what we'll see at Nationals, and the identical course to what we're going to see this weekend. So it was a great learning experience, and there's some things that we can do better on the guys' side as well.
Gotcha. And then kind of switching gears a little bit, we're going to start talking about the Inland Empire Championship first. Going there for the past 6-7 years, very familiar with the course. Just kind of talk about what this race means as far as the men and the women that'll be going to this one as opposed to the pre-national event.
So at pre-nationals, limited to 7 only. And because our season really is just kind of starting to get going here, with none of our true championships underway yet, and Pac-12 will run 10. So it's a good opportunity, or a great opportunity, for those that are currently outside the top 7 to get in another race. And this is what that allows. Otherwise they'd potentially go a month or 6 weeks without racing. At this time of year, racing becomes a little bit more important, and it's a great way for me also to evaluate the group that's not going to Wisconsin as well, to help plan their training for the season, but then also to give them an opportunity to earn their way onto that the roster of 10 that go to Pac-12s.
Gotcha. And then you kind of talk about their season just getting started, where, this is almost, with this pre-national event, the start of, a stretch where it's this, Pac-12, West Regionals, and the Nationals. As far as just preparation for that, all the races prior to this moment, I guess, how does that, the focus for both the men and the women kind of shift now going into this pre-national meet?
Yeah, it is a pretty tough balance to make sure that you're ready for the end of the season without getting too ready too early. But at the same time, you need to secure some wins to qualify for nationals. So it's a tricky balance, and that's usually the trickiest weekend is this past weekend when we're at Nuttycombe, of finding that fine balance. Now, this will be the first meet where we're actually focused on racing as opposed to the training through some of the meets. So this will be the first week where we had a little bit of, I wouldn't call it a taper, but the first meet that they'll be a little bit rested. The freshest they'll have been at this point or so far in the season. Again, still being mindful of the fact that 2 weeks after this is Pac-12, so we need to be ready for that. 2 weeks after that, we're at West Regional. We need to be very ready for that, and then ultimately, at the NCAA championships. But again, this is an amazing field. 18 ranked, 18 in the top 25 in the nation will be there, divided up into 2 races, but still a high quality field and a great opportunity for us to improve and get ready for the final 3 meets of the season as well.
I'm good. So,
all right.
anything else?
Okay. You talked about after the Netticombe, there were some things that the team might need to improve on. What are you looking to improve going into the pre-national meet?
Well, I think one of the things when it's your first exposure of the season, even if you're a senior, of that quality of a field and that number of runners, so there's that fine balance through the first part of the race to not be too aggressive, but also to position yourself well. And I think we learned a lot from how that course runs. And I think for the most part on the men's side, outside of a couple, we were just a little too aggressive, a little too early, and then you kind of pay the price just a little bit towards the end of the race. Obviously, we'll be a little more fit, a little more rested for this, but we still need to be mindful of the fact that we need to kind of balance out our energy management or our strategy with that race to not be quite as aggressive at the beginning, that we can position ourselves just a little further back in the field in preparation for the final 3 or 4K of that race.
How have you seen the team prepare going into this race now that they've all seen the course?
Oh yeah, I think that race, outside of just the fact that you get used to that race, that they did have a lot of takeaway from it, and I think they were able to take what they learned from that race and apply it to some of the training that we've done, especially the week following, which was a very high intensity, very race specific week. So some of the things that we talked about individually and as a team, we were able to actually execute that very well in practice. So I feel on top of being, again, a little more fit, a little more rested, they do have a much better understanding of that race, and hopefully that comes to fruition when we run a little, take another step forward this weekend.
With the team running in 2 different locations, what challenges have you as a coach faced preparing the race plan for your athletes?
Yeah, in some cases, it gets trickier with the training because the races sometimes are on 2 different days. And so then you have certain people doing certain workouts on some days, and we lose kind of that team feeling that we, really thrive on and rely on for success for our team. But with both races being on the Saturday, it did make it a little bit easier from the preparation standpoint. And then before I leave, it's really important that I can convey and relay all the things I want them to work on at the Lewiston race. I'm very familiar with that course, so it's fairly easy for me to design a race strategy for them. And with it being a slightly smaller field, it's a little easier to execute for them, even without, say, Coach Linton and I being there. We do have some assistants going with them, so they were not left to their own, but it is important for me, I think, as a coach, just to feel comfortable, that they feel comfortable going to that race, and by the time I leave, I think they'll have a pretty manageable and effective race plan in place.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I think we're just excited to get back to racing again, excited for all the races moving forward.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, and go Cougs.